Hello, Dr. McCready. I hope all is well with you. I really miss being at King's, and I know seniors are a little disappointed at the way things ended, but I'm sure that we'll find a time to get together and celebrate the ending of our senior year. This is my internship final presentation. I'm doing it on Screencastify. My dad can't kind of give me a run through on how it works, so hopefully this will work for you. So I did my internship at Petroleum Service Company, which obviously you know about. I was really excited to get this opportunity and work for them. And basically, it's a company that's been operating for 90 years. They're right down the road on Main Street. They sell petroleum products to businesses around the country. They sell greases and lubricants for planes and cars and different machinery. I don't really know a lot about the products themselves just because that's not really my job to know how they operate or what they're for. But I know that they embrace technology a lot. They definitely say that on their website, and they're really happy to help customers wherever needed. It's pretty easy to buy anything off their website just because of the way that it runs. And that's a lot because of the technology team that they have, which I was a part of for months. So it was really interesting to see the backside of how their websites work and be part of their coding process as well. The hiring process was kind of funny because I was working at Chick-fil-A, and Peter Urban, a former King student who graduated in 2019 as a CS major, which I'm sure you know him, he walked in and I asked him, how he was doing and where he worked now. And he said that he worked at Petroleum Service Company. And I was kind of, messing around with him. And I was like, yo, you have any internships available? And he was like, yeah, actually we do. Like, you should send in an application or resume. So I was like, okay, awesome. Like, that would be great. And I did, and I got an interview pretty soon after that. Like, it was only a couple days later that they set up an interview time for me to come in. And it was really nice to go through the building itself because there's a lot of King's graduates, like people that have been there for 30 plus years that started off as interns as well when they were at King's. Um, they started off just asking me, basic interview questions, but then they also gave me a coding quiz on a computer, which I was kind of nervous about because I'm more familiar with just Java and working with, BlueJ and not really, like some MATLAB stuff, but not really digging into a lot of the JavaScript or even SQL. But it was like CSS, JavaScript, HTML, and I'm not really familiar with those. So I was a little nervous that I wouldn't do great on the quiz, but they gave me access to W3 schools, which you see the logo there on the right screen. It was interesting to take a quiz and not really know anything about the information, but be able to look it up. And I think that was their goal, was to see if I was able to research what I needed to know to solve the problems. And I did well in the quiz. I think I got all of them right besides the last one. I got like half of it. And they taught me how to do the rest on the spot, and it made sense. And I was kind of excited to just be able to research and know that I was teaching them that I am teachable and that I can, research and learn from this experience. So my job, I was basically, I was an intern, but my job title was a web applications developer. I did product entry, which wasn't the most fun or interesting thing, small tasks on their websites, 301 redirects, which I'm sure you know because I've talked about it in my journal entries a lot. And I also maintained Brewery Spotlight for the first couple weeks of its, debut. BigCommerce, the logo on your right, is what they use to maintain a lot of their websites. It's basically the backdrop or the background, if you will, to doing any websites which have products that are for sale on them. A lot of companies use it, and it's just easy because it's just software that's already basically set up, and all you have to do is fill in your own tags and your own product names and everything. So it's pretty easy to learn and run through. I know that a lot of different companies use it, and it was just what was easiest for a petroleum service company to use as well. So the first thing that I said I did was product entry, which I said wasn't the most, fun thing to do. It was kind of tedious and just not really, exciting. But the process was simple. It was just you enter the name of the product into, like I said, BigCommerce. And I have an example of a PDS, which is product data sheet over here. I also had to insert the URL to these just because they like to have the product data sheet listed into like the link to it in their when it comes up on their website. That way people who go into it can see the description, the application, and even the advantages down here to the product that they're using. This is called a weight up here, the 5W30. There's definitely different weights to different products. I'm not exactly sure how all they work, just because that wasn't really my job to know. But I did learn different things about the weights, and I knew kind of like where the product belonged and like which weight it was. And I kind of learned that as I was going through, just because I did a lot of product entries. It was kind of easy to do this part just because I basically, for the description on our portion of BigCommerce, I literally just had to copy this description right here, kind of change a few words around. Same with the application and advantages. I have meta tags listed because it was an important process for me to kind of do the tags. It's basically keywords where if someone went into a search bar and just listed 5W30, then this product would pop up under the items that would be searchable. So it was definitely important just in case a customer didn't know exactly what they were searching for. They could just type in a few things and the product would pop up, hopefully, and they could find what they're looking for. Another thing that I did is small tasks on websites. I didn't really do this a lot just because it's kind of a background project. When the person, Jim, he was like kind of like the boss of my boss. So he had different projects for me to do, which was part of the product entry, and something else that we'll be getting into, which was the 301 redirects. So the small tasks on websites was just something that Andrea and Peter had me doing when I wasn't really doing anything for Jim. And they have 5 websites. The first one is petroleumservicecompany.com. Then there's Aviation Oil Outlet, Blue Sky Lubricants, Sandblasting Machines, and Ingredi.com. I did some JavaScript code, which is kind of like the more technology, like technical things that I was learning. So JavaScript code, unfortunately, I can't obviously, show you any of the coding that I did myself, just because that's like kind of confidential and I don't have access to it either when I'm just on my home screen. But also, there was some file searching. So if you do like inspect on any website, you can see which file that HTML, JavaScript, or CSS code comes from. And it was kind of interesting to me because I learned what exact file I need to go into to change each element into what it needs to be. And it was a lot of research heavy just because, like I said, I wasn't exactly sure how to do these things. And I didn't have that knowledge just, readily available to me, like in, any context. So I did have to do some research to change some things that they wanted changed. They used a website to keep track of all the things that needed to be updated, and they assigned me and Nick Maza, who was also interning there later on in my internship, to assign us tasks and stuff to complete. One of the things I did is this add to cart and description box over here used to be perfectly square, and they wanted them to have a little bit more rounded edges. So I figured out how to do that by researching JavaScript code, again on W3 Schools, and just learning, what that had to, what JavaScript to do. And it's actually I'm pretty sure it's their CSS files because that's the actual style of the website. And the JavaScript was definitely interesting to learn too. Another thing that I did was change this color. It was black, but this was part of their Blue Sky Lubricants, so they wanted it to be blue, for the Blue Sky Lubricants. And it's kind of interesting because each color has a certain code that it's called a hex code that you can type in on your own, or you can also just save it. And it was easy to save the colors for that website just because they were going through and using that same theme for a lot of their different descriptions and word text that they were using on the website. So instead of just, having to memorize the code or typing it in each time, they just had kind of a different hashed out code in their actual file that said the different colors that they were using. Another thing that I did was 301 redirects, and this was a process. It was definitely very time consuming, and I listened to a lot of podcasts while I was doing this at work. And I mean, it's a laid back environment, so it didn't really matter, but it was just very tedious work, and it wasn't the most exciting thing to do, but it also needed to be done. So basically, Google search has an algorithm that pops up the websites that they want to show first. And obviously, Petroleum Service Company wants to be at the top of their list so that customers go to their website to buy their products. And our Jim kind of like was researching and said, and he kind of figured out that our websites weren't really popping up super, early in the search, just because a lot of our websites and different URLs on our websites had different, they had a lot of the same descriptions on different URLs. So like you would, for example, I have a example over here, the mobile DTE 24. So previously, before I was doing the 301 redirects, this product would go to a completely different page, and this product would go to a completely different page. But they're the same thing, it's just that they're different sizes. So instead of having, 2 pages with this information on it, we redirected those URLs to go to this page, which we called the parent page. And it wasn't an easy process, just because sometimes the 301 redirects didn't save and we weren't sure why. And at first, I thought it was my fault, and I was, it was kind of the first conflict that I had there, just because like they kind of thought that I wasn't doing something right, but I kind of knew that I was doing it right. So I was kind of getting frustrated that they, didn't really, they kind of just, I feel like blamed the intern, which wasn't, the greatest feeling and stuff. But I did figure out why they weren't working, and it's just because in one of the sheets that I was loading the information into and stuff, if you click save before you enter the product or enter the URL into the 301 redirect, it will save automatically, and that's good. We want that. But if you don't save the product URL beforehand and then you go and save the 301 redirect, it won't save because that URL technically doesn't exist yet, to whatever you changed it to. So that's why sometimes it was saving, sometimes it wasn't saving. So I'm kind of happy that I figured that out, because it made it a lot easier to not have to go through each URL and check if they were working, and just knowing that if I was saving the product beforehand, then the URL itself would save. So yeah, this is a good problem and solution that I kind of found. And the process itself obviously wasn't the most fun or interesting or anything like that, but it definitely was helpful to the company. So as long as I was sitting there and not just running coffee for them or anything like that, I felt like I was being a help, and also it was paid, so I can't really complain about that either. So another interesting thing I did, which I think I'm pretty sure I showed you this video before, was someone at the company wanted to start a blog called Brewery Spotlight, where they go around and go to different breweries, and they kind of rate them and tell people like what kind of beer was there and if it was good or not. And this is a background project, so this is again another something that I can work on when Jim doesn't have something dire for me to work on at the time. And it was kind of a combined project with Nick Massa, who I worked on it with as well. And I'm the one that kind of started it. I started this before he was even kind of like doing anything with it. And then he went in, and, it was nice to have a different pair of eyes on it and different mindset on it too. And we both came up with our own ideas, and we're working on different things on the website. So basically, it's a blog page connected to Ingredi. Ingredi is our website that they operate different ingredients to put into things such as beer. So obviously, breweries can buy things from us, Ingredi, our website. And we wanted this just as a different thing. So breweries, can go on our blog and they can say, oh, like they spotlighted us this week. Maybe we should check out their website and maybe buy products from them. So it's another way to hopefully gain sales, but also just gain some customers too to, go onto our brewery spotlight to see what, our brewery of the week is. And we faced some struggles just because we used WordPress for this, and I wasn't super familiar with WordPress either. So it was very research heavy, and I wasn't exactly sure how to at first go through and change the templates that were on WordPress for us. So this was a template over here. I can play the video. And it was kind of interesting to, go through the video and also just learn a lot about the video, about the website itself. And I kept, showing people this, and they were very interested in like how I got it to do that. And, honestly, it's not obviously all from scratch. Like this is a template. I just had to, go in and change the pictures and the way that, the screen moves to like, my personal appearance that I like and stuff, but it was still kind of challenging. I faced because there's these things called widgets, which are the buttons basically up here and over here, which you can click on, which will take you to another blog. I didn't get super far in this project before COVID-19 happened. I wish that I could have continued working on it. Because I was kind of getting somewhere with it, and I was excited on how it was turning out, and so was the guy that wanted it in the first place. So I wish that, I got a more chance to work on it. So things I learned from this internship was definitely multitasking. I had to do a lot of different things at once. Sometimes Jim would have me working on something, but then he needed to do something, so then I'd have to be working on something else, and then going back and forth through different projects. I also learned a lot of communication, especially with inside the technology team. I had to talk to Andrea, Peter, Nick, Jim, and other people in the business just to learn, if I needed a picture from this website, and we couldn't use it on our website, I needed to get that permission and, buy copyrights to it and stuff. So I needed to talk to a girl named Megan about all of that, but also just working with Nick to come up with the best ideas on how to do the brewery spotlight, and also talk to Jim about 301 redirects when I had questions. And it was kind of challenging just because sometimes, I didn't know the best way to come across them, or, but it was usually a pretty easy environment. Like, like I said, they do yoga, they have different parties and stuff. So everyone's kind of friends and they're all super nice there. So I wasn't really intimidated, but it is also just, going up to your boss and telling them that something isn't working isn't always, the greatest feeling in the world. So I had to work around that, and also just become a better speaker in general. That goes kind of along with teamwork, just, working with the team to come up with the best strategy to do things, and also kind of throwing in my ideas as well is interesting. I definitely learned time management from working at PSC just because I was still in school and I was still a full time student the first semester that I was working there. So I had to manage full load classes and also having a job and social life and volunteering and everything like that. So it was definitely a learning experience. I'm very happy that I had the opportunity to work there, and usually they were pretty, understanding. School came first. So if I, had a couple tests or finals were coming up, I could, obviously text them or text my, boss Andrea, and she'd be understanding and let me know, or, tell me to pick up hours later on in the week or whenever, I could. So it was very flexible, which was really nice just because it gave me an opportunity to kind of put my priorities in line. And obviously school came first. So if I had a test, I would work, less hours before my test, and then I could pick up more shifts after my test, or do different things, or if I had a prior commitment, or if I was, going home for the weekend, they were pretty understanding about that. So I was very lucky in that aspect. Future work, unfortunately, PSC, I did, go around telling people that they offered me a job, and they did. I just wasn't under the I didn't know that what they meant was that they were offering me to kind of go on with my internship itself. So I would only be making the $10 an hour and basically doing the same projects, which the same projects weren't really upsetting to me. It's just the fact that I obviously want something with more of an income. especially since I'm not local to the Wilkes-Barre area and I need a salary that I can sustain myself while working in Wilkes-Barre on my own. So unfortunately, it's just not going to work out for PSC. Obviously, if they're hiring for more, roles in the future, I'd look into it. But right now, I don't see myself working for PSC anymore. I'm really grateful for them, and I liked working there. I don't have any complaints or anything. So yeah, overall it was a good experience. If you have any questions about working at PSC or overall questions about my experience, you can always email me. But I hope this was a good presentation, and I hope that you have a good rest of your semester. Thank you.